we have the QR code. So if you have any questions you want to ask during the conversation, please do scan and ask, and I'll see them on my iPad. So Ollie, we'll start with you. I think a scene setter, just to talk a little bit about what's meant by next generation CDE as opposed to when we generally talk about CDEs. So what's the advancement? What's the new benefits?
So thank you very much. Great to see everyone. I think the two previous presenters might have done my job for me, because it seems as though what we've just seen could be some good examples of next-gen CDEs. I think when we talk about CDEs, we need to just sort of have a look about the context of what was the original intention of a CDE, that common data environment. I think as an industry, vendors, ourselves included, have misinterpreted what that is, and traditional EDMS, electronic document management systems, have been touted as common data environments over time. But I think we see that changing now, and those examples are things of it, in terms of really bringing together and integrating traditionally siloed and disparate systems across the full asset lifecycle in order to create better insight fundamentally. And as I say, I think these are great examples of where that's starting to come together.
Okay, thank you. And then Ahmed, when we were speaking previously, you talked about next gen as being a system of systems. So again, when you're looking at it as a system of systems, the different layers, the foundation, how they interact, what's your process?
Yeah, okay. So let's mimic it in this way. We have SSO in all of our organizations right now, right? Which is a single sign-on. So imagine we have something from Microsoft, from Google, and from different solutions platforms. The problem is that every time you need to sign in and go to an application, you are going to its specific domain and username and your password, and still it's a kind of a very painful process. What we did right now, it's a kind of a single sign-on. So you are collating all of your applications in one single source or one single user interface. And then with one click, you can go to whatever you want. Either it's dashboards, it's a SAP Ariba, Unifier, Aconex, or whatever. So it's typically the same. In our construction industry right now, we have several platforms and solutions moving through Oracle, Autodesk, Bentley, Tremble. We have a lot without saying names. But again, the same problem we found, that for every single process or workflow that we need to do, what we are doing, we're going to a single source, which is, it's a kind of a very iterative process, taking a very long time. And so actually we thought to have a kind of a system of systems, which is a connected common data environment. And on this data, common data environment, we have some foundational layers that we are speaking about, like data and GIS, and then the BIM model itself. And I'm speaking about not about a building, not about a district, I'm speaking about a program. It's a kind of a small city in which we are developing. So in this case, we are trying to connect everything in one single source, regardless it's a digital construction or design, or it's a project controls, or let's say it's a marketing and sales. We are trying to make everything under one umbrella so we can utilize our digital workflows in which we were speaking before.
Thank you. So Jatin, what kind of benefits are you trying to see? For instance, streamlining workflows, automating processes. What's your end aim here?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. So yeah, with Ardara, what we're trying to do is establish a common data environment, which is going to start from our construction design, going through the delivery, and then overall operations. So it's a long journey that we've undertaken. So we've started by streamlining the processes itself, looking at ways how we can put all the data coming in from all the different systems, whether it's BIM, GIS, Costex, financial planning systems, ERP, try and not just look at it from a document management perspective, but from an overall system of system perspective, which then allows us to take that data and start using it for various analytics and a lot of applications in the future. So it's about building that data today, ensuring the data is available. It's the right data, right kind of workflows put in place, which allow for that data then to be utilized for various other information management and analytics in the future. So it's about starting today and then going through that whole process, which can be a good 10, 20 years process. So
I moderated a panel earlier today in the room next door looking at dark data, so that lost opportunity of data that companies are paying for, storing, maybe paying for space in a data center, but never using. Maybe they don't know it's there, they don't know how to access it, etc. So obviously, we're kind of a CDE is playing a role here. So Ollie, where you start to see people moving from, and for want of a better phrase, because I can't think of a better phrase, legacy CDEs, where they're trying to move from what we know now today to that next generation. What are the big challenges for that transition that you need to think about? How do you put the structure in place?
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges we see is actually around the level of autonomy that is, is actually around the level of autonomy that is afforded to the procurement of technology within projects and program environments. What we tend to see is that individual projects and programs, even within the same organization responsible for the design, the construction and the operations of their assets, all take a slightly different approach to the procurement and also the enabling process, organization, information and data enablers. The intention of the CDE is to bring all that together. The risk that we see is that actually you're creating multiple silos of CDEs. And so actually then in turn, you're missing out on the opportunity for wider organizational benefit through consolidation, standardization, efficiency, etc. And so it's very, very, it can lead to a missed opportunity. That is further compounded by what we see is that a disconnect then between the asset and ultimately the enterprise, and that if there isn't an alignment between more strategic organizational approaches to IT or systems deployment, then further again that issue gets compounded around isolating data systems and ways of working, and we need to have the next gen CDE or whatever we end up calling it, the integrated environment, to align to the strategic objectives of the organization. Otherwise, the business benefit isn't going to be achieved, the return on investment isn't going to be tangible, and ultimately the accelerated time to value isn't going to be achievable. And there is a risk that implementations fail to meet the outcomes that they're originally intended to do so.
Okay, so what about some of the technologies that you can use? I mean, just about every conversation I think I've heard today, or most of them, have talked about artificial intelligence, automation, etc. So how does that play a role in this process?
Sorry, it wouldn't be a digital conference if we didn't talk about AI, and I'm sure we'll talk about digital twins. I think that AI is a transformational step change again, a real marker in what is happening in wider industry, and we've got an opportunity here to capitalize on that within the built environment. I think one thing that's really key, and my panelists have all talked about it, is data is critical to this, to AI. We know that high value use cases from an AI perspective will be enabled by good quality data. What I see within organizations is that many clients have lots of data, to the point you raised, but volume doesn't equal value. It will be the quality of the data that is going to then materialize through high value use cases in business benefit. And so AI plays a role, I think, in two ways. It plays a role in, and I think to some of the point that the presenter previous to the last one raised around it being able to support with that data cleansing, data quality, data governance, that you can set the rules and enable your organization to have better quality data. Once that is provisioned and stood up in the way it needs to be, then things like the connected CDE or otherwise can use that data to enable high value AI use cases. If we don't do that, then I fear the true transformational potential of AI will be missed, and it will not scale within the built environment to the extent which it probably should do.
Okay, Jatin, where are you? Where is Ardara on the CDE journey? Can you give us some case studies as well while you're answering?
Sure, yeah. Look, with Ardara, we started on a very unique process. We wanted to establish a digital twin from a design perspective, from a design construction perspective. And in order to do that, we had to define the common data environment. because in order for a digital twin to function and to really give value to the organization, there has to be the quality of data, like Ollie mentioned earlier. The quality of data has to be very, very good. You need to understand where that data is going to come from, what kind of attributes those data is going to provide, and how you're going to use those attributes to take certain decisions through a digital twin. So because of that journey, we had to establish a common data environment. We started on this journey last year. We started out with multiple applications. Obviously, being a real estate developer, we have the Acronix and BIM and GIS information, and a lot of that was sitting in silos. So we had to combine that onto a data platform. We had to refine that data. We had to look at which aspects of that data are actually valuable for this journey. And you mentioned the dark data side of it, which is massive, because how do you establish what's required and what's not required? So from our point of view, we had to take a step back, look at what we have. We had to streamline that information and then start looking at what we need to do and where we need to go. So we've had multiple stakeholders from Ardara involved in this whole process. We've got the environment set up, and we have use cases like we have the digital twin functioning today with 5 or 6 use cases around design, simulation, traffic analysis, because we are a brownfield site. We are trying to demolish an existing city in Saudi Arabia and rebuild that. So we need to understand what is the impact it's going to have when we start construction on that existing city. So we are trying to understand that through that traffic analysis. There's a lot of use cases we've built upon it as well, from a security standpoint, from construction monitoring standpoint. We are looking at schedules that are, the Primavera schedules that happen for our whole program. We're trying to look at that, and we're trying to integrate that information onto it. So we've established the common data environment, but there's a long way to go from where we are today. We've just got the data coming in, sitting there, but the applications itself are things that are in progress and will continue to be for the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, and Ahmed, a similar question really. Where are you on with your journey, and what kind of models are you building? How do you measure the metrics that you put in place?
So the first things that we did in our company was building the PMIS, the Project Management Information System. I know it's not the connected common data environment, but actually we appreciated the data, and we knew without having a good data, we will not progressful, right? So what we did is we connected everything in a single platform using our technology, which is already there, using Bar Platform, SharePoint, Bar BI, and Bar Apps. And we did a kind of triggering and automation workflows in order to collect and collate data from different supply chain and then report this at the end of the day. This was a kind of a seed, and right now we are seeing this progressing well and increasing. So it's just started as a project control initiative, and right now we are seeing this initiative everywhere. So and oral functions like master planning, design, delivery, development, everyone needs like a connected common data environment in which you can go there and start to, even with integration of AI, you can ask a question and it will give you the right answer on the spot without having this kind of hassle and searching and digging deep with different platforms.
I have a question here it's a multi-part question from the audience, so I'll ask. I think it's an open question. Maybe I'll start with Ollie and then we'll work our way down. So data is always scattered in different applications and in different databases, and I would suggest maybe even across different companies as well, on-prem and on cloud, obviously. So how is CDE helping? And then how is data consolidated so that it becomes that single source of truth? Is there one single source of truth, or are we looking at a situation where actually sometimes there's more?
Yeah, so there's a let me start. There's a lot to go out there. Good question. Thank you. I think that scene that someone has set there is absolutely true. What I think we've got in the intention of an integrated environment, next gen CDE or whatnot as we call it, is the ability to create a common data model. So what we need to do is understand, first of all, what is the data models of the source data that we're looking to integrate, and understand the quality by association as well, and the governance around it. What we then need to do is work on a department-wide, organization-wide, or dovetail into the enterprise-wide common data environment and IT architecture in order to be able to stand up ultimately a integration layer, which is around mastered reference data, so that all of the same systems are talking all of the same language, so that we can then visualize that data in different ways through different use cases. So we go from local data to global data. I can say that, and that all sounds very easy and very nice, but the reality of doing so is very challenging. And it is a program of transformation that needs very much, cross-departmental, organizational buy-in and understanding around the business benefit of doing so, because there's quite a lot probably to be said around the profitability of the status quo. And actually, that sounds like a lot of effort. Why would we do it? So again, to bring it back to benefit, all of that needs to be done, but it has to be anchored off of what is the business benefit that's going to be achieved.
So what shall I go with you first rather than Jatin, just for a change of order?
Okay, so since you mentioned single source of truth, I have an analogy in mind. It's like Amazon. Amazon started as a physical bookseller, right? And it was sending the books to the via emails, not emails, sorry, via mails. And right now, Amazon is, let's say, selling everything from needle to rocket, right? So it's a kind of a single source of products. Anything you need, you can log in directly to Amazon and search and buy. It's typically the same. We need to follow the same methodology that everyone is doing right now, especially when it comes to the product. We need to productize how construction is working right now, because it will be more efficient, more quick, and more fast. So we can apply the same methodologies that we are seeing with the online sellers on technology and on construction itself. So adding different, let's say, products and adding different solutions in the same platform, and then go directly to this platform and have a single source of data or information.
Is that distributed value chain within construction also adding more trickiness, more difficulty with it, with trying to do what you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, look, it's not easy to build this sort of an environment for sure. And there are challenges with it, because there are licensing challenges, there are storage challenges, there are regulations that we need to look at, and we need to overcome all of this, and then look at what our stakeholders, when I say stakeholders, our internal company stakeholders require from this sort of a data. And again, construction industry, it's not necessarily an industry which loves technology or advancements towards it. So there are other mental or blockages that people have in terms of what we can do with technology. So yeah, there are many challenges when it comes to getting construction people to adopt these sorts of technologies, for sure. Yeah.
Just to add one more point on there, so it gets quite exciting, I think, to Ahmed's point around this idea of a single source of products. If we look at what Amazon are doing there in terms of understanding customer buying behavior, the presentation of information and data fundamentally around products in terms of what you've bought, what you're going to buy next, and what you don't even know you're going to buy yet, but the business already knows you will. This idea of being able to imagine presenting within a built environment context, that level of insight to stakeholders within our organizations in order to generate informed decisions. You know, a CFO meeting with CEO, and the diary has already indicated that it needs to extract this data, augment it with that data, and present a report that's going to help inform the decisions they're making on that day, is really the type of journey we're trying to get on. And I think we can learn a lot from the type of organizations there, Amazon in part, around that kind of level of tech adoption.
Yeah, the problem right now is that we have the technology, we have the solutions. It's always about us to adapt and how we will adapt. These are big problems that we need to discuss.
Is it trying to, I mean, it gets, sorry for using such a cliche, but it's that breaking down of the silos, and trying to merge those different bits of data. People who maybe don't even realize that data exists in another department, or a department that doesn't realize that a colleague needs the data they have, trying to sort of overcome that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, collaboration across the organization is really important. And with data or the CDE, what brings in is that transparency for across the organization, for them to utilize that data. There are multiple options in terms of what we can do with it, and that becomes a very it's a challenge, but at the same time, you can utilize that data for multiple purposes. So we have, everyone from procurement to sales to design to construction to delivery, all trying to work off through that data and try and utilize attributes from that data, which allow them to function efficiently. Yeah.
What about as you get that distributed nature, and it was mentioned in the previous question, you're starting to get cloud and on-prem. Are you also now looking at, well, what kind of scalability issues does that create? Does it when it comes to things like next-gen CDEs? And then also, what sort of security considerations are you have to take on board? I guess I'll start with you.
Yeah, I can jump in, and probably at the limit of some of my technical knowledge of the nature of what we do. But I mean, certainly, cloud computing, moving to the cloud, moving away from on-premise is obviously going to allow us to create scale. In terms of security considerations, obviously we personally and others will work in various different asset classes where the level of security around information and data is going to be more prevalent. Not just stuff around things perhaps in the UK around GDPR, etc., but more widely around critical national infrastructure. And we'll have similar things in other parts of the world. And so understanding where our data is held, sort of bringing it back to the other point as well around, is it client-owned data? Is it supply chain-owned data? How do we procure that data and have contracts that allow us to access that data in the same format in which we either provided that data or procured that data? And then fundamentally, whilst the client may own the data, if that data is hosted elsewhere, fundamentally, who is the actual owner of that data, and where is that data shared? So I think cloud computing provides another third stakeholder in that journey around the client, the supply chain, and ultimately some of the hosting around who owns that data and how it can be accessed, and the security of which it is governed by.
Okay. Did you want to add to that? All right. I just want to go back to one of the questions I asked earlier, because I'm not sure we answered it properly, which is when you're putting in place your projects, when the use cases you were talking about, how are you measuring the success of those? How do you know that actually you're getting benefit?
Yeah. So look, in order to measure the benefit, we need to start looking at the KPIs that we've established right at the start of the project, right? So when we started out, we wanted to ensure we could have collaboration across the organization, as well as collaboration with external consultants, contractors, and so on and so forth. So one of the key benefit or something that we wanted to achieve was to provide a platform where all our consultants or contractors that could be sitting outside Riyadh or Saudi could access that information, have that information in that one environment, which is so-called the single source of truth, or at least that one version of that document or drawing which everyone can work on, right? So there's no multiple versions sitting around. So when we established this common data environment, we started realizing that there were these benefits. Whether we've realized those benefits yet, not completely. We're still on that journey, but we do see that that's going to, we're going to achieve that eventually.
And are you being asked quicker and quicker for return on investment proof?
Yes, of course, always. I mean, we've had to invest heavily into the technology, so everyone's very keen to understand how that's going to give us the return. I think everyone sees that there are qualitative benefits as well as quantitative, but I think the qualitative ones are much, much higher, and these can't be measured. But I mean, how do you measure collaboration? How do you measure not having to travel from one place to another, or just working on a design drawing, sitting anywhere in the world, using the same environment. So there's many benefits to it. There's definitely an ROI, but how we measure that at this point in time, there are few metrics, but not all can be explored. Yeah.
Okay, and how about yourself?
So imagine you're coming to us and say, what is the ROI for the design drawings? It's typically the same. Yes, it's not, you cannot, let's say, measure it in quantitative format, but qualitative, because without having the design drawings or design models, you cannot construct, right? So it's a kind of a soft cost and hard cost. It's typically the same when it comes to the common data environment and what we are speaking with it right now. Without having the data, you cannot control anything. You cannot measure anything. So once we have this kind of single source of data and single source of information, you can actually do whatever you want when it comes to the analysis. And here comes the human factor. What we need, what are our KPIs, what are our OKRs, what is our objective? Do we need to make us our entity like 100% digital, or we need this project to be digital? What are the use cases that we need to utilize? What are, let's say, the initiatives that we need to prioritize? So there are a lot of things. It's a kind of a mix-up between different factors and parameters.
And actually long-term, not short-term.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and if I may add, actually, you don't need to take all the data and start putting that on a common data environment to start with. You need to understand what do you need exactly in order to deliver a service, or to what benefit it's that going to bring in to the organization in terms of whether it's business operations or any other requirement that you have. So when you look at older systems and you have data sitting somewhere else, we need to first analyze whether we need that data to come into a common data environment, or do we need that and just take certain attributes from there and that move those attributes and look at a way to integrate and pull in that data. And then when you are updating those systems, you look at a system which is going to have that common data environment kind of a backend. So that becomes critical again.
Okay.
So yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think we're in a place, certainly in a consultancy space around. We're not able to tell clients, oh, the return on investment is 4 years down the line. That isn't acceptable. We've got to flip the consultant model on its head to come in and understand what are the high priority use cases that are going to deliver the return on investment in the best time to value, prioritized as such. So we take a high value business process or use case and deliver that and demonstrate benefit straight off the bat, and then start to build off of there. So you can't be big bang, is what I say.
So ROI is maybe it needs to be thought about differently.
100%.
Different metrics, different benefits being brought through.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, sorry, nearly dropped my iPad then. Sorry. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much for your time. We